Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video is about the October one little word prompt, which as you can see, I've already done. I'm going to walk you through that process in a minute, but I think the issue that I had this month was that the prompt, I really thought the prompt was good. I love affirmations. It was a practice I sort of got into at the start of the year, and that did fall off. So I was excited with this kind of affirmation prompt in October. I just wasn't super excited about kind of the practical, I guess, the application for how that was presented in the class. That whole mixed media thing felt very similar to Pam Garrison's prompt, and I wasn't really up to it, to be honest. I just didn't kind of fancy it, and so I kept putting it off and off and off until last night I decided, no, I'm just going to sit down, I'm going to do it my way, which involved stamps. Like, I don't have a lot of mixed media supplies. I didn't want to particularly buy more to do things that I'm not super stoked to do. What I do have, though, was a lot of stamps and a lot of inks, and so that's how I did this process. I did it a little bit simpler, a little bit differently, and I'm kind of in love with the end result. So before I show you that, I'm just going to quickly show you how I interpreted this prompt.
So like I mentioned, I wasn't really sure where this was going. I just knew that I didn't really want to do mixed media. And so I just kind of sat down and I was going to play with some stamps and just see how it turned out. But I decided to turn the camera on as I did that, and I'm glad I did, because now I've got a process to show you. I started with just a blank sheet of paper, and I know from having made these kind of little folded zines before that it's definitely easier to do the folding and the actual kind of zine creation at the end of it with a thinner type of paper. So I've used just, I think it's about 160 GSM paper. It's nice smooth white stock, and I'm just going to go ahead and play with some stamps. Now again, I made things easy for myself. I didn't want to try and work out a color scheme, so all I did was just pull out a few of the inks from the last Catherine Pooler minis set that I've got. I can't quite remember the name of it. I'll leave a link in the description box, but I know that these colors all work well together, so I didn't have to overthink that. I just pulled out a few and started stamping. Now, as far as the stamps go, these are all super old ones. I used mostly these two sets here, which were a collaboration from Studio Calico and Ashley G, many years ago. And so I've always had these in my stash. I love having these kind of sort of just generic kind of basic shape sets. I've also got one from Feed Your Craft. I keep an eye out for them because they're handy for this sort of thing. This is the kind of, I guess, art journaling, mixed media. This is what I enjoy doing. I enjoy doing the stamping and using these stamps and combining them in different ways. Now, I did start off, it's very hard to see here, and actually it's very hard to see in real life too, but it was a good start, I think. I started off with this kind of scripty stamp. I think that's a Kaisercraft one, and just a very light grey ink, just as a base to give that very white paper a little bit of texture, a little bit of something to start off with, before I went ahead and just started stamping all of these stamps. The kind of formula that I used for it was I started with my kind of lightest inks, and I used the biggest stamps with the lightest inks, and then worked my way up. So as my inks got darker, my stamps got smaller, and that way the page kind of stays a little bit more balanced. It's not being overwhelmed by one particular color. You can always add more stamps if you want to, so I kind of err on the side of less to start off with, building my way up. When I was digging through my craft room, having a bit of a tidy up, I did come across a couple of older stamp sets. One of them is this one, and I've just kept them in my stash. The quality of the stamps is definitely degraded. I don't know what brand they are. They're easily from 15 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, but I pulled them out to use in my October not quite daily album, and I'm going to use that little one here just to add a little bit of texture. And then once you've finished stamping, so I've decided to stop here, I'm just going to go ahead and fold the zine as instructed. So I'm folding my paper in half, and then each half in half again, so you've got it quartered, and then flip it round and fold it once this way. So it gives you a piece of paper with 8 segments in it. And then I'm going to use a ruler and a knife, and I'm going to trim in the middle. So it's kind of hard to see here, hard to explain, but I'm trimming a slice through the middle of 2 of those segments, and then you kind of just fold it all up into a little book. I first sort of made one of these little zines following a tutorial from Tina at Life Love Paper, I think. I'll link that video in the description because she definitely she definitely describes the process in a lot more detail than I do. Now I decided which way I wanted my little zine to fold, so which one's going to be my cover, and I decided to just decorate it a little bit more. This is another one of those Ashley G Studio Calico collab stamps, stamped the little girl and the wee dog on there, and then I'm going to kind of just add a little bit more of my word into this before I finish up. So I grabbed another pale pink ink. I don't want this to be like super in your face, so I picked a much paler ink. It's just very subtle, and of course my brand new favorite, the Penelope Alpha from Citrus Twist. I'm just going to stamp the word clear across the middle. So this is the middle spread, so my kind of little zine's going to have 3 interior kind of spreads to it. I chose the middle one here to stamp my word clear. It really isn't clear. It isn't clear. It isn't in your face, but it is there, and I liked that. I liked it so much that I decided to repeat that on the front. Obviously, it's quite a large alpha. I'm not going to be able to spread it out. I did think about maybe doing something that was a little bit smaller, but actually I liked that it all kind of worked together. So I'm going with that whole sort of abstract theme, and I'm just going to stack the letters so it doesn't necessarily read as clear, which I guess is ironic given what the word is, but it just is there. It's just a subtle reminder for me, really. Now to kind of put this book together, I'm going to use my sewing machine. I just opened it up so it was flat and stitched it down the middle. And so now I know it's not going to come apart. It's all in place where it belongs. I'm just using a little bit of glue stick and kind of sticking that glue stick in between those pages just to, it's totally not necessarily because the pages turn by themselves, but I'm just adding a little bit of glue to kind of make it a little bit more of a book. Now, I guess the thing with folding the zines this way is that the edges are never super perfect. And that's okay. I just want to add like a little bit more texture to this because I've used the stamps. It is very kind of flat, which is totally okay, but I wanted to add a little bit more texture. I've done some of that with the sewing machine. I like the way the stitching came out. I stitched in again a very pink, like very light pink ink thread, sorry, so it's all kind of coming together as a theme, and so I decided I would do a little bit more stitching, and I'm going to do that with some of these labels. So they're just like digital printable labels. I'm folding them over and I'm adding one to each edge of the page, and I'm adhering them with just a little bit of glue stick, and then I will go back in and just add a little bit of stitching to them, again to add the texture, but to make sure that they stick down because these labels are quite thick cardstock, and the glue stick's not particularly strong for this thicker cardstock. The colors, I'm just kind of going, I'm not reprinting anything, I'm going with what I've got, but I really liked adding the little pop of yellow onto the front, kind of a little golden color, so I'm going to replicate that on the inside as well by just adding some drawn shapes. So this is like a gold gel pen, but I like that contrast of colors. So you get a little bit more of a look at the book here. I'll show you a flip through at the end here, but this is the last finishing touch on here. I've put my whole book together. I've added all my affirmations, and now I'm just doing some of these kind of doodle shapes in here, just adding a little bit more of that gold color. I didn't want to add the leaves onto the front of the book. It is already quite busy. So instead I'm just adding a few little gold highlights into the girls here just to tie all of that colour together.
So here's my little final kind of zine notebook affirmation book thing. So much simpler with the stamps, not quite so much mess. I ended up with 3 affirmations, so 1 for each page. I just added some little like kind of digital printable labels with just some numbers, just a little bit of extra kind of detail on there. And then I typed my affirmations just on some scrap paper and just glued them into my little booklet, which I have actually, like, I have stitched shut just to make sure it stays kind of intact. And as well as gluing those pages together, I have added little bits of stitching where the labels are. So it feels fairly secure, fairly put together. I do enjoy these tiny little zines. So I started with an A4 piece of paper, so I don't even know what size this is. It's smaller than 3x4, I think, but it's super cute. I love it. I've just got it sitting on my desk so that I can read these each day and just go through them. But that's it. So I totally simplified the process. I did it all in, I'm gonna say, less than an hour, hour and a half. Definitely much quicker for me. So if you need a permission to change things, change it up, do it your own way, consider this that message for you. Pick the prompt up however you want to do it, and just get it done. I love the results. So if I hadn't let myself get confused by that process at the start, I would have been a lot further along this month. As it is, I think I'm going to keep this little book out on my desk rather than pop it into my album. Maybe at the end of the year it'll end up in the album. I don't know. Either that or I'll take some photos and pop them in instead. But I think this is going to sit out where I can use it on the everyday. Hey, thanks for watching today, guys. If you've got any questions, please leave me a comment. If you enjoyed the video, hey guys, thanks for watching today. If you've got any questions, please leave me a comment. Otherwise, I will see you again really soon. Bye.